Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to preseason live in this terribly lit room with the light right above my head, so I'm shading over everything. But it'll have to do. Hopefully, this might be subpar, but that can't be said for Chelsea's preseason performance today. 3-0 against Arsenal. Probably better than we expected, although we did beat Fulham 8-2 last week, so, based on that, we fell 5 goals short. So we're going to talk a little bit about the game. This probably won't be very long. Talk about the game a little bit, and then I'm sure there will be more transfer rumors, because that's what the people like. Transfer rumors. Everybody loves transfer rumors. So, yep. Third comment, Jeremy Boga. I think Jeremy Boga is definitely the standout youngster of the day. If we are to remember, although Michy Batshuayi scored 2 goals, so it's not too bad. Not too bad day for all the youngsters. But let's start at the beginning. Unsurprisingly, I suppose, Antonio Conte went with just about the strongest lineup we could put out at the moment. That does not include Eden Hazard, who's injured, and Timo Bakayoko, who are both back at Cobham, and Alvaro Morata, who landed in Singapore just about as the game was beginning, and based on his Instagram was watching right along with us on Chelsea TV or wherever he might have been watching. Chelsea TV, perhaps predictably, crashed under the load of all the free viewers. This happens just about every time they try this, and they've yet to successfully pull this off. I'm not sure what they need to change to make that all work. But it's nice of them to show it for free. They just need to figure out how to show it for free without crashing, which kind of defeats the purpose. Fortunately, it was on ITV as well, and I'm sure the multitude of not quite legal streams out there. Anyway, so the lineup starting at the back was Courtois in goal, Cahill, David Luiz, and Azpilicueta across the back, Marcos Alonso and Victor Moses as your wingbacks, Conte and Fabregas in the middle, and then a front three of Pedro, Batshuayi, and Willian. Unfortunately, Pedro is probably the one bad news from today. He quite literally, got punched out by David Ospina, who did this trick to Oscar once already, and now he did it to Pedro. So it's unclear what his deal is, but this is now the second time he's concussed and knocked the Chelsea player out of a game. The one good thing, I suppose, is we did substitute Pedro off instead of making him stay on. I had a sense of machismo or a misunderstanding of what concussions are. So that was heartening to see, I guess. I'm not sure. We'll see how long he's out, I suppose. Pedro's replacement, Jeremy Boga, started a little slow. Obviously, he wasn't into the flow of the game just yet, but had a very impressive game, especially in the second half, nutmegging just about half the Arsenal team and getting kicked and hacked down for his troubles, which seemed to be Arsenal's thing. You would have thought they lost the FA Cup final, but instead they're taking out all their anger on us for some reason. Wenger, before the game, said there are no friendlies between these two teams or whatever, but I think they took that instruction a little too seriously. Far too many fouls, and then of course the referees basically didn't call anything. They handed out one yellow card, I think, in the second half, and that was to Kolasinac, who fit in quite well with the Arsenal hacker group, and he pulled back. I think it was Lewis Baker who made a late second half cameo alongside basically all the rest of the team. Eventually, Chelsea didn't make actually any changes at half other than switching goalkeepers to Willy Caballero. And then eventually, as the second half wore on, we did change out all 11 players. So at the end of the game, we had a fully rotated lineup, and that was as follows with Caballero in goal. Back three of Jake Clark-Salter, Andreas Christensen, who also got a knock on the head but seemed alright, and then Tomas Kalas as the right center back. Your wing backs were Kennedy, who there's mixed reviews of his performance, to put it kindly. Right wing back was once again Fikayo Tomori, who did pretty well, I thought. It's the center midfield pairing of Kyle Scott and Mario Paschalitz. And then a front three of Jeremy Boga, Loic Remy, who was your captain. I'm not sure we ever seen or ever will see Loic Remy with the captain's armband for Chelsea again. So there's your historic moment. And then the right inside forward was Lewis Baker, once again playing as a forward instead of a midfielder. 3 goals. The announcer said Christensen going to Seville. Oh, I didn't hear that. I would imagine Christensen stays with Chelsea. It's not something that I've seen any serious rumors of him leaving. Yeah, I don't think that's a worry, unless there was some other random rumor from Sky. It was they linked us with some 18-year-old center back from Nice, and I'm sure he's fantastic, but his buyout clause is something like 36 million, and I'd be very surprised if we paid 36 million for an 18-year-old center back when we're not really willing to play our 18-year-old center backs. So, I think that's just some by definition silly rumor. I think Christensen doesn't have anything to fear at the moment. Although I would like to see him play a lot more against Bayern or Inter in one of the games coming up next week. The one player missing, conspicuously absent, was once again Charlie Musonda, and I believe the story on him is that he's once again injured a little bit. There was some rumor about this where I think it was the Sun that claimed that he actually went back to London. Well, that's not true. As we know, he did his initiation song just the other day, as per David Luiz's Instagram. And he's with the team. He's just apparently injured enough that he's not able to play or possibly even train. So that's unfortunate. It's been the story of Musonda's career over the last year or so. It kind of destroyed his loan last season to Real Betis, and it kept him out of training for most of the second half of the season after he came back to Chelsea. So hopefully whatever's happening with Musonda Jr. there with number 17 shirt is nothing too serious. So 3-0, really nice goals from Willian and Batshuayi twice. Michi was definitely in the mood to take several shots, and early on they were slightly frustrating because they were not well executed, and he made a couple of bad decisions where possibly passes would have served us better than shots. But at least he's taking shots, which is something that we sometimes accused Diego Costa of not taking enough shots, and he linked up really well, actually. So that's what more could you ask from Batshuayi? And his second goal, which was in the second half, was fairly tremendous. And if you haven't seen it, you should obviously watch all the highlights of this game. But if you haven't seen any of the goals, the one goal you should watch is the third one, where Fabregas with classic pinpoint accurate ball over the top for Marcus Alonso, who possibly destroyed Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's soul with a perfect cutback. If Oxlade-Chamberlain's transfer fee possibly just went down by 10 million, so that's possibly nice for us. But that did not cover himself in glory for as a defender, as a right wing back there, the Ox. And so after the cutback, Alonso delivered a nice pass to Batshuayi at the top of the box, and with a first-time finish right over the top of the goalkeeper into the roof of the net. And I believe the move itself started with Batshuayi winning the ball in midfield and then sprinting up to join the attack. So that one play stand out from a rest of a very good performance from Michi, and perhaps he's feeling the pressure and he's really trying to stay with Chelsea now that Morata's in the fold and presumably the first choice striker. Michi making his claim of his improvement. He now has 4 goals in 2 games in the preseason, as does Willian. Michi probably should have 5, as the refereeing crew chalked off a perfectly legal and perfectly excellent goal. Really well played. Once again, Fabregas key, as he was to most things today, in terms of orchestrating things in midfield. So they disallowed that goal, but it turned out not to matter in the end. Remy as our third striker, asked Joe. I see. I hope not. Let's put it that way. Mostly because I think if Remy stays, then there's a bigger chance of Batshuayi going out on loan, and also Remy doesn't tend to stay not uninjured. That was the big knock. I mean, the man's barely been not injured for more than, say, a couple weeks in a row over the last 2 years. So I think relying on him as anything other than a training option, it would not necessarily be a good plan. There have been several rumors for Remy, so I think we can probably get a few million out of him and send him off to wherever, Lazio or whoever's interested. So now, next up for Chelsea will be Bayern Munich in Singapore on Tuesday. I think the kickoff is just about the same time, and we'll be with Morata and Rudiger now in the squad. I'm not sure they will play. Morata obviously has been training already with Real Madrid, so he's probably pretty close to fitness and he's ready to play. Rudiger has been literally on preseason tour of like Japan and America or wherever. It doesn't seem like he got much of a rest. He got like put to work by Nike. He seems like he's some sort of a Nike athlete, one of the young new generation. So he's been globetrotting all over the place for the brand and opening stores and whatever. Yeah, a lot of comments about Kennedy. I don't think it was that terrible, but certainly a couple high profile mistakes, and we keep playing him as left wing back, but he still isn't necessarily a left wing back. So I'm not sure how that would ever develop. If we send him out on loan and tell somebody to play him as a wing back, we tried that with Watford last year, and he barely played, and probably because he's not ready to play. So it's a bit of a conundrum there for Kennedy. But obviously we need somebody to back up Alonso. He can't be expected to play every single game in both the Premier League and the Champions League, and Kennedy is probably not Champions League ready. So yeah, that's where the rumors of like Alexandro come in, which still there's no progress. So with Sandro, we're still looking at Chelsea have submitted at least like 3 or 4 bids, most of which probably were rejected, including supposedly the last one, which was upwards of 65 plus add-ons, so something like 70 million euros plus bonuses. And the rumor is that was rejected as well, just like our bids of 40, 50, 60 million euros were. But there's still a chance as long as Alexandro doesn't sign his new Juventus contract, which he supposedly will at momentarily, as shortly. He's closing in on his new contract, but he's yet to sign it. So we still have a chance, maybe. There's the whole Nemanja Matic situation might factor into that at some point. The idea being is if we want to sell Matic not to Manchester United, and Juventus supposedly are interested, but they want Chelsea to lower the fee. So maybe we can, do some sort of handshake deal where we say we lower the Matic fee, and then you give us Alexandro. With as player swaps don't really happen in football, but we can certainly create some good business relationships here, and maybe making get Sandro. It looks like Danilo, who could possibly play left back and right back, is heading to Manchester City. And the other option that was linked recently is the aforementioned Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who unfortunately was destroyed by Marcus Alonso today. So maybe we shouldn't buy Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. But the story there is that the Ox is refusing to sign a new Arsenal contract, which seems to be an issue for them, which makes us pretty happy. But he's refusing to sign his new contract, and he doesn't necessarily say that he wants to leave, but he either needs a better contract offer or he needs to be sold for Arsenal. And despite that unfortunate play for the Ox where Alonso stole his soul, he's as they're saying, the comments are saying, he is homegrown, which is a big bonus considering we only have 3 homegrown players in the squad. He can play left and right theoretically. He's probably better on the right. He's a winger. He can be a wing back. He can play central midfield. And we know that Conte likes players who are versatile like that. The Ox is probably a master of none, jack of all trades, classic in that type of player. But depending on his price, it could be a very smart signing. And he's still pretty young. He's only 24 or whatever. So that's something to keep in the back of our minds, really, if the other fullback options don't pan out. The story for Matic is the 2 options, I suppose, is that we sell to Manchester United or we sell to Italy like Juventus. And the story was yesterday that we would be okay with selling to United, but only if they give us £50 million, which is a fairly outrageous price for a 29-year-old midfielder. And I don't think we're necessarily in danger of receiving such a bid. But if we do, those are some pretty tough choices to make right then. We should not sell Matic. Obviously that's to Manchester United. That's the ideal, or that's the preferred solution. I don't think we should strengthen our rival either. But for 50 million, if we can turn that 50 million around for a wing back whom we need, Benjamin Mendy, there's a good name. I think Mendy is also closing in. Everybody's closing in on everything. He's closing in on Manchester City. He has been for a while, so possibly there's an opportunity there. And there have been stories over this weekend already that our next targets include Benjamin Mendy, but I think we have to move pretty quickly to get there before Manchester City. It could be. I think, a 23-year-old out of Monaco, Mendy, he's quite highly rated. And could be an interesting situation to see Alonso faced with some proper competition. In fact, same thing goes for Moses. Both of our wings back kind of went through last season without any actual competition for their positions. We obviously can't count Kennedy, and Tomori played really well today again for the 10 minutes that he was on there, but I'm not sure he's a right wing back of a future. Mendy is confirmed transfer to City, 53 million, says Jono. Okay, I haven't seen that. It's always tough to tell. It's until it's announced and the player's holding, even if before the player holding up the shirt, until it's officially announced and everything is signed. Anything can happen. A couple of the names people are bringing up. Baba Rahman is recovering from an ACL injury, and I don't think he's going to be useful for any team, let alone Chelsea, until like January at the earliest. There was a rumor recently that Schalke might actually rekindle their interest. At the start of the summer, they said Baba's recovery is not going well, so Schalke kind of dropped out of it. And now the recent rumor last couple of days is that they're possibly back in for him. Thanks, Rodrigo. This is the temporary haircut here until the hair grows out again. It's always big changes. Yeah, sad to see about Baba. He looked a decent prospect. It's slightly ironic because both Mourinho and Conte shipped out Baba because he was not defensive enough, and especially Conte. We sent Baba to Schalke, and then we ended up playing a 3-4-3, for which theoretically Baba could be a very good backup left wing back. But by then he was at Schalke, and then he got hurt at the Cup of Nations in January. So it's unfortunate for Baba Rama. Things that could have been. I mean, we did spend something like almost 20 million on him, I want to say. That's pretty serious amount of money, and he was super highly rated in the Bundesliga. Certainly a better option than old Kennedy, I'm sure he's trying his best. Poor old Kennedy. Ryan Bertrand, yes. Ryan Bertrand is the name that we also should keep in mind. We'll see if that ever progresses beyond just a potential interest. There's a question about why don't we make YouTube videos? Because this is the extent of my skills, is to do Facebook Live. We have started uploading these videos to YouTube, and so they can be watched there afterwards. But we do have plans to kind of expand and do some proper YouTube videos eventually. So stay tuned for that. How were the young players? Asked Mustafa? Well, Jeremy Boga clearly the start of the day as far as the young players go, and we're not counting Batshuayi here as a young player. He's season-old veteran at 23 or however old he is. Boga was excellent. I started slow and then made fools of everybody else in the second half. Tomori, as I mentioned, was pretty impressive in the 10 minutes he was on. Christensen did alright against Giroud, I thought, in the couple one-on-ones they had. Lewis Baker, solid as usual, and the two midfielders, Scott and Pasalic, did fine as well. Everybody possibly, other than maybe Kennedy, who got a minus for his 20 minutes on the pitch. Why did City hijack Danilo from us? Asked Rodrigo. Then they already have Walker. Yes, and that is an excellent question that only possibly Danilo can answer as to why he thinks that he might get more playing time at City, having to compete with a £50 million signing in Kyle Walker. So, not that Kyle Walker is tremendously good, but he did cost a lot of money, and that kind of guarantees you playing time for a while. If we do play 3-5-2, how do you see Chelsea lining up? Any chance of Hazard behind Morata and Batshuayi? Yeah, I think that if we do keep Batshuayi around, which I hope we do, having two quality center forwards could see us play the 3-5-2, I think. and either Hazard or Fabregas, depending on the opposition and game situation, could work pretty well as in the number 10 in the whole role. So that's definitely something we should keep in mind. I don't think Conte is necessarily eager to change the tactical system at this point. He seems to be sticking with the 3-4-3 so far pretty regularly. This whole entire preseason, there's not been a single hint yet of switching out from a 3-4-3. That said, last preseason we did 4-2-4 all preseason almost, except for one game I think it was. So things can still change, but I think for now we're 3-4-3 all the way. What's up with Miazga? Matt Miazga is with the U.S. national team right now. They're in the Gold Cup. I think they're playing the semifinals today against I want to say Costa Rica. Miazga played one game in the Gold Cup already, and he scored a goal for the U.S. that actually guaranteed them the group win. So that was nice. The story on Miazga is supposedly he will be sent out on loan again to somewhere more challenging than Vitesse. So I think the general impression of Miazga's time last season at Vitesse was that he started pretty slowly and then actually played really well. So perhaps he'll turn into an excellent defender just yet. We do have an American playing right now for Chelsea, and Kyle Scott, so that's always exciting. Team USA. Yeah, as Joe says, the team looks so comfortable in the system. I mean, it was pretty impressive on the highlights last week against Fulham, but it's just Fulham, right? But today against Arsenal, I mean, it was quite clearly Chelsea were a level above. And this was Arsenal's third game, I want to say, of the preseason already, and this was our first real, or second if you want to count Fulham. And it was obvious that Chelsea were at a level above, not just in terms of fitness, but motivation, comfort in the system, knowing how to play with each other. And it's tough to put a price on that. Team chemistry and all that. So that's another reason possibly we're not really looking to switch out from a 3-4-3. Although when we made the switch from 4-3-3 to 3-4-3 last season, Conte talked about how it's a lot of the principles of how he wants the team to play apply in both formations. It's just the details and the specific setup that changes. So. It's the team that was out there in the first half. That's basically last season's title-winning team minus Costa, Matic, and Hazard, but with their proper backups or the usual backups from last season. So it's quite, we just continued that, and that was nice to see. Nice to see it's still working. It was a bit open in the beginning, probably a bit too open for our liking. But Arsenal were just not at the races after about the first 20 minutes. And then it was all Chelsea. Who do you think is going to be left out of the back three when Rudiger comes into the picture? Cahill. Yeah, Cahill did well today. I think the one defender who's assured of his place is David Luiz in the center of the three. Because you don't really have his de facto backup is probably Christensen, and Christensen's probably not quite ready to start just yet because he's only worked with Conte for about a week and a half. And then it's three players for two positions, so Rudiger, Cahill, and Azpilicueta for the left and right sides of the center three. And if I were a betting man, I'd say Cahill is the one who drops out, but all three of them could theoretically play either side. So maybe it'll come down to preseason performances, or if somebody gets hurt, it's nice to have a backup. And as Rodrigo says, will David Luiz be a backup as center midfield or defensive midfield? Yeah, so that could change things as well if we need David Luiz to step into midfield, since we only have like two midfielders at the moment. Uh, that's another could cause another reshuffle in the back. Uh, but hopefully we'll find a better solution there, or we keep Lewis Baker around. That's definitely an option at this point. You know, Pasalic is getting plenty of playing time as well. Maybe he's a dark horse candidate to stick around. Who knows? Who knows? I need a mix of Boga and Charlie. Yeah. So we need one player out of the two, so make it easier to integrate them. The Ox would be useful as homegrown. Yep, the Ox is. I think that, and unfortunately, that probably adds to his price. That he's homegrown, just like Ryan Bertrand's price is probably much higher as an English player, as a homegrown player, than it would be if he were, a foreign player coming in. Kazuma and Rudiger play together. They seem pretty similar. Well, perhaps in the future they could. They do seem the same type of player, same type of defender, very aggressive, very quick, fast, and strong. But Zuma has gone to Stoke City now for the season, so there's a reason to watch Stoke City. Unfortunately, is to watch Kurt Zuma play. Cahill's weakness is not comfortable in the ball, and he can't make a decent forward pass. That might be a little too strong, but certainly out of the back three, he is probably the least comfortable on the ball, and probably the worst passer over 10 yards. But Cahill does have really good technique, at least shooting technique. We know that. We've seen him score several tremendous goals on corners, and we know he's got the skills. But yes, if we're looking for ball playing defenders, Cahill is the obvious, I guess, choice to make way for Rudiger if Rudiger is as good as advertised by some, because there are certainly differing opinions on Rudiger, whether he was worth the 30 million or not. And Joe says Pedro is in a hospital for concussion check, which is not surprising, I suppose, because he literally got punched out by the goalkeeper, and then I think he got a knee to the stomach as well, just for the bonus on him. Oh, and then of course Pedro himself was whistled for the foul because that's just one of the many ridiculous decisions by the referee today. So hopefully nothing too serious for Pedro here, and all the concussion is just a precaution. Kennedy should go on loan. It seems to be the consensus review of his 20 minutes in front of the TV cameras here in Beijing. And I think there was a rumor about Kennedy going to PSV at the start of the season or start of the summer, so maybe something like that will something that will crop up again, an option for Kennedy. That said, I think as long as Kennedy will only go out on loan if we manage to get a left wing back to compete with Alonso. Because Kennedy might not be a very good left wing back, but he's still better than the other option in the squad, which is nobody. So for now, Kennedy's assured of being a backup by virtue of not having anybody else for that job. Do we have a left-footed center back? Cahill's passes are killing me. No. I don't think anybody's particularly a left footer. Unless we play Alonso as a center back, I don't think we have a natural left-footed defender in the squad. That's the unfortunate side effect of selling Ake. Did Musona go out on loan? Not yet. And judging by what we've seen so far this preseason, or all what we've heard, is he will not be going out on loan. Obviously, that can change, but he got assigned a squad number of 17, which would indicate that he stays. But unfortunately, he is, as others are pointing out, he is injured. He's with the squad in China, and we saw him do his initiation song on David Luiz's Instagram. I don't remember the song that he did. I know Caballero did Despacito, which is, I mean, come on. Oh, Big Willie, Big Willie. Poor choice, poor choice. Yeah, Rudiger is versatile and with both feet. But I think he's a right footer by, natural. But if if he's both footed, is that a thing? Both footed. If he's comfortable with both feet, then he definitely is the candidate for the left side. And I think that's when Rudiger played in a back three for Germany. I think he played the left side of the back three. So that's probably where he's penciled in for. Although we only have, I suppose, 5 center backs right now confirmed or expected to be in the first team squad for the season. With Cahill, David Luiz, Azpilicueta, Rudiger, and Christensen, and so it might be more of a rotational situation instead of a one-to-one backup. Like last season, we had backups with Ake on to Cahill, Terry to Luiz, and Zuma to Azpilicueta. Well, Zuma's gone, Terry's gone, Ake's gone, and we only replaced them with 2 players. So it might be rotating more as opposed to just switching, doing line changes. Another comment about Boga being impressive. That's right. I think Boga is the big standout star who hopefully staked this claim. And there's several things on Twitter and stuff like that about people hoping that Boga makes the step like Victor Moses did last season. And even somebody like Chalobah, who obviously didn't play too much, but he's still impressed enough in preseason that he was kept in the team. Let's see. Conte is saying the same things about Michi as he's always been saying. He was working very well and improving. And you have to improve every player. He's a young player. If he stays in the middle, it's good. Striker is a very important point of reference. If he stays in position, it's easier for us to play good football. Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting comment because, Costa didn't always get accused of staying in his position. He'd like to drift and drop deep and drip to the left and pretend that he's a winger and think he's a better dribbler of the ball than he is. Batshuayi certainly plays a lot more classic center forward, at least when I see him. As more of a target man, hold up, strong player at the top. And if we can play around that, Batshuayi played really well today, I thought, just like against Fulham, based on reports and highlights. So he looks motivated, he looks fit, and he's fun on Twitter. So really, it really doesn't make too much sense to me to loan out Batshuayi and then buy another backup like Llorente. That seems to be a minor rumor going around. The Llorente links picking back up, and it's really, if we're gonna spend money, that doesn't seem like a good way to spend money. Spend money on wingbacks or another midfielder even. We don't need another striker. We have Morata and Batshuayi. It's a pretty strong combination for me. Who's going to be back first, Bakayoko or Hazard? I think Bakayoko is expected back by the end of August, and Hazard is probably expected back a few weeks after that, at the earliest. Still think we need a striker, says Ben. I think we only need another striker if we are really willing to play a 2-striker system, which doesn't really seem like an option at the moment. I mean, in theory it is, and this, we have the players to do it. It just doesn't seem like something that Conte is really willing to do again. Maybe as a late game option, go to a 4-2-4 with two strikers. But as far as starting lineups, I think we're sticking with a 3-4-3. And we can always do 3-5-2 with like Hazard as your second center forward. Morata and Hazard hopefully will have as good of an understanding as Costa and Hazard did, and I'll go from there. Llorente can be third striker like Drogba in 14-15, and that's true. The only trouble is I read at least one thing where Swansea would want 30 million for Llorente, and that's not third striker numbers. Obviously, that's just a rumor, and Swansea are crazy if they think anybody's going to pay 30 million for Llorente. But in today's market, you almost kind of expect something stupendously silly like that. He only has 1 year left on his contract, I believe, at Swansea. So if they're going to sell him, we could get a good deal out of there and get a good cheap third striker, somebody who's not Remy, who's always injured. Even if that's not true, that's the narrative I'm sticking with. So Llorente definitely can be a third striker. I just don't think if we spend that much on him, we're gonna use him as a third striker. But we did spend 30 million plus on Batshuayi, and he's barely played, so who knows? Perhaps money is not really an indicator anymore, or maybe my figures are just completely off, and I need to start thinking more along lines of 40 and 50 million pound players. Do we need a winger? Pedro is out for long, then we're left with Willian and Boga. Yeah, so if that's a good question. Hopefully Pedro is not out for long. I think that should be our big hope right now. Concussions can be pretty nasty. But yeah, so that's where somebody like Chamberlain, Oxlade-Chamberlain could come in. Could certainly be a backup at multiple positions, and help us increase our flexibility if somebody goes down hurt. Yeah, Batshuayi hold-up play says Jason was certainly good as anything we ever saw from Costa. Yeah, I don't think Costa was ever really known to be your classic center forward, hold-up, backup player. Take the ball down with your head, hold it up, and then bring others into play. That's but I don't know if Morata is pretty good at that too, and as is Llorente. So who knows? If that's the type of striker we're going for, then Batshuayi's been demonstrating certainly today and in Fulham or against Fulham that he can do this. And at the end of the season, last season too, he played pretty well. So it'd be nice if we kept him around. I do like Michi. Is Costa leaving or staying? I think we can rest assured that Costa is leaving, and the only question is how much more. Who's going to accuse whom of knowing what and when, and how much money we can get out of him from Atletico Madrid. In his press conference on yesterday, Conte said that the situation with Costa, or the situation had been made clear to Costa and his agent for a while now, i.e. January is what reports were saying, which is interesting because there was some pretty good vibes eventually between Conte and Costa towards the end of the season, and you almost thought all that's been blown over, but it's just if everybody knew what was going to happen since January, it's fairly impressive that they still managed to work out a proper title challenge, and almost even an FA Cup title. The fact that Conte mentioned the agent really makes me think that it wasn't necessarily Costa who was pushing for the move, because Conte said it was made clear to Costa and his agent what our plans are or what Chelsea's plans are. So it wasn't necessarily Costa pushing for a move to China. But who knows? Who pushed where and when and how? what really matters is Costa is on his way out, and that's a matter of time. Yeah, as Neil says, how can you build a site around a player who's constantly asking for a transfer? There's a story out of the press conference yesterday that said that was it 3 times Costa's asked to leave 3 times already. So really, at some point, you just gotta be like, fine, get out of here. Here is here's this offer from China. How's that? How's that feel? Oh, you don't want to go to China? Well, and that's where we are. Strikers don't score many goals from headers. Yeah, I would definitely recommend watching at least some Morata goal highlights because the kid scores a ton with his head. The slight caveat there is that was a lot in Spain with his head, and Spain has a reputation of not really being as good. The quality of the aerial defending in the Spanish league, to be specific, has a reputation for not being as good as, say, in England. But I mean, Morata is 6'2", 6'3", something like that. He looks skinny, but he appears to play very strong, and got a good head on him. So I think certainly it's not something Costa ever really was really good at. In fact, it's Costa is one of those players who you look at him for a long time. You looked at him and said, "How is he this? How is he such a good striker?" And that's probably part of the key to his success is conjuring things out of nowhere. There's an article in The Guardian by Jonathan Wilson that said that Chelsea will be missing that quality of Costa's very much. This ability to create a goal out of nothing. Like there was a goal against West Brom, I want to say last season, where he chased down the defender down the touchline, dribbled on goal, and then it's a goal that he created through his own sheer will and power, and that's not something that you too often see from Morata. So we'll see if that's something really, a quality that we're going to miss. I think Conte rates qualities such as consistency and reliability a lot higher than Costa's ability to conjure something out of thin air every once in a while, but then also be truly terrible every once in a while as well. So it's the known quantity. Perhaps you could say Morata's worst is probably better than Costa's worst, where Costa's best possibly is better than Morata's best. That's just my reading of the situation. I'm not as familiar with Morata, obviously, as I am with Costa, or having seen him over the last 3 years. So he comes across as a really, really nice kid. So hopefully he scores lots of goals. That's all we can hope for. There's a video from Chelsea TV with Morata meeting Hazard at Cobham. So hopefully that's the start of something beautiful. A perfect relationship, lots of titles, etc., etc. Please keep our number 4. Yeah, I don't think Fabregas is going anywhere. I think we're good. Yeah, people forget that Costa went missing from January, says Neil. It was, one of those seasons within a season. Costa was tremendous and very important first half of the season, and then he disappeared from January until about, I want to say, mid-March. He was, we were carrying him like back in the old days with the old Fernando Torres, playing with 10 and Costa up top. And then he picked it up again towards the end of the season, got remotivated or whatever. Maybe he heard about Atletico or something. And I hate how our wide players are reluctant to cross in the air. Conte's instructions. Yeah, I think that's definitely, we're playing for the low crosses. It will be interesting to see if that changes with Morata and Batshuayi more featured next season, because they're both much better in the air than Costa. But we are playing for low crosses and cutbacks, which, in fairness, are more statistically higher or better plays than a high cross. Which even if you have somebody like Morata or think of the best header of the ball, and a high cross into the box is a pretty low percentage play. But it's an option, and with Morata and Batshuayi, and even somebody like Llorente, it's certainly an option that we can add as another avenue of attack. And Alonso, we know, can cross the ball. Moses has a good foot on him, so maybe we'll see a few more high crosses this season rather than the usual low cross. The opposition will anticipate the low cross. We go high. That's the beauty of having multiple options. Well, all right. So I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. This is more than I planned for. More than enough from some stupid preseason game. It's fake. It's all fake, right? Mourinho told us everything in preseason is fake. But when you beat Arsenal 3-0 on a good performance, I think we can assume it's not all fake, and should give us some confidence here for going ahead. Next up for Chelsea will be Bayern on Tuesday, and then Inter Milan on Saturday, and then the tour is done and it's back to England. There will be the Community Shield is in a couple weeks against Arsenal again, whom we seem to be playing a lot these days. And then the season starts in 3 weeks, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. So gotta keep working hard, right? As Antonio Conte likes to say, work, etc., etc. So we'll be back probably after the Bayern game, unless something really major happens, which, considering there's only 2 days till the Bayern game, I'm assuming you don't have many transfer surprises up our sleeves at the moment. But you never know. That's why they're surprises. So we'll talk to you after the Bayern game. Hopefully we'll play just as well as we did today. Although maybe we'll see a few more minutes to some of the youngsters. So